Welcome tonight to our next lecture. We're very excited to have Dave and Liz Findlay with us. They've created an amazing outdoor clothing brand called Albion Fit. I know many of you know about that brand, and many of you told me you buy their products. Our TA for the class, Sydney Scally, is going to introduce them in just a minute. But what we have tonight for you, we have 3 great books. The first one is How to Build a Business Warren Buffett Would Buy, which is an awesome book. The second one is What Awesome Looks Like by our board member, Amy Anderson. And this is a great book on turning an idea into a business. It's called Startup Leadership. So if 3 of you want to come up and tell us something you learned last week from Alex Bean, which I think was a pretty amazing lecture. I've never met anyone that has sold a company for $2.5 billion after 3 years from the launch. So it's a pretty amazing, unique story. So raise your hand if you want to come up, and Sid will pick 3 of you. Okay, come on up. So give us your name, one thing Alex taught you that impressed you that you will use in your career.
Am I the only one?
No, we got more coming up.
Okay, should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Braxton, and something that I really liked that Alex talked about was finding your superpower and just leaning into it and really developing what you're good at. That was something that was mentioned by previous people as well, and so just to have that repeated was really powerful for me. I'm going to take this one.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
All right, come on over. Give us your name.
Hi, I'm Kendra Allred. I really liked how he said things are never as good as they seem, but they're also never as bad as they seem. So the highs are maybe not as high as you'd like to think, but the lows really aren't, and that you can always pick yourself back up. So getting into that mindset, I think, was really good for me to remember. But
Thank you.
My name is Carson, and something that I liked is that he talked about the power of teamwork and how everyone has a different superpower, different ability to kind of set the culture and to set the whole group up for success. So I thought that was really powerful too.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to turn the time over to Sydney Scally, who is our TA. But before I do that, I really want to thank Sid. She takes your emails. She sends you links to videos if you miss lectures. And let's give Sid a hand. She's awesome. And then she'll introduce our speakers.
Okay. So today we have Dave and Liz Findlay. Dave and Liz Findlay's entrepreneurial journey is a captivating tale of passion, resilience, and vision. The co-founders of Albion, a renowned activewear brand, embarked on their venture with a shared commitment to creating high-quality, stylish athletic wear. Originally hailing from Salt Lake City, the couple translated their love for fitness and fashion into a thriving business that has garnered widespread acclaim. Albion's inception in 2010 marked a significant turning point for Liz and Dave, who sought to fill a gap in the activewear market by offering versatile, comfortable, and fashionable apparel. The brand's success is attributed to the Findlays' hands-on approach, meticulous attention to detail, and dedication to providing customers with activewear that seamlessly combines functionality and style. Over the years, Albion has evolved into a lifestyle brand reflecting the Findlays' passion for promoting an active and balanced way of living. Beyond their roles as entrepreneurs, Liz and Dave Findlay have become influential figures in the business community, embodying the spirit of innovation and perseverance. Their journey from local entrepreneurs to the helm of a nationally recognized activewear brand serves as an inspiring example of how a shared vision and unwavering dedication can transform a passion project into a successful business venture. So let's give a hand for Dave and Liz Findlay.
cheers.
All right, we are so excited to be here. We are from Salt Lake City. We actually grew up big Utah fans and not BYU fans, but everybody loves Aggies. So we're excited to be here. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully we can share some things that will help you guys in your entrepreneurial journey. Okay. this is us. So we're just gonna bounce back and forth. And I just want to preface this with, I feel like one day I want to write a book with what Liz thinks happened, how Albion came to be, versus Dave's perspective. So there's some things that sometimes we don't always align. So you'll see some of that kind of bounce back and forth a little bit.
That is definitely the truth.
Okay, love at first sight.
There I was in the copy room. I was working a job. I was your age. I was at the University of Utah. I was living at home. I'm going to the U.
Living the dream.
Yeah, living the dream. See, you guys have it better because you guys probably live away from home. So you're one up on me. I'm living at home. I'm going to work, half-time, school. And there I am making copies and faxes. I don't even know if you guys know what those are, but I was faxing. And I turn around and this Liz Holmes walks in. There she is.
The fact of the matter is I had actually been there before Dave. So I had already been there for like a year, okay? And then who's this new guy? This guy just thinks he can just copy whatever he wants. But actually, he turned around and he looked at me, and I actually fell in love with him the second. He had a big black eye. He had a bowl cut. He had these really beautiful blue eyes, and I was like, wow, who's this guy? But he had been in a rugby tournament over the weekend in Denver. And then later in the afternoon, I found out that he was the driver of that really cool 1982 Land Cruiser that was in the garage that had a rugby ball and an oil painting in the back seat. Because yes, I did look into the car to see who could potentially be driving that. But we became fast friends right away. Dave, what did you like about working with me?
Liz was the best coworker. She always made things fun. And if you guys work and it's just something an entrepreneurial, I think it's something to, if you guys are entrepreneurs, to live, but also to work and create an environment that's kind of like light, but in fun. Like I look forward to going to work because I knew Liz was there. And also I knew that if we needed to get a big copying project done, Liz was always right there to help me.
Yeah, we really had so much fun at work together, and we had the same haircut, as you can see. So after 3 years of hiking and skiing and mountain biking in the Albion Basin, have any of you guys been there? Have any of you guys been to the Albion Basin? Okay, so that's where our love blossomed. And I think maybe that's where he eventually started liking me. I don't know. He actually pulled over one day. We'd been hanging out for like a year, and we had never even touched. It was very platonic at this point, but he pulled over his car, and he's like, Liz, I want to tell you something really important. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to ask me to marry him. I was like so excited. And he looked at me, and he's like, you're my best friend. And I was like, oh, no, I don't want to be your best friend. But anyway, after 3 years, he proposed at that exact same spot and asked me to marry him. And we had our wedding reception there. So that's why the company is named Albion. But I got my master's degree at the University of Utah. I don't know where that's coming from. In British and American literature. And Dave got his degree in graphic design. So how do a writer and an artist end up here today? That's what this story is about. Dave served an LDS mission in Thailand, so from the very beginning, we loved traveling together. So we traveled to Thailand, we traveled to Guatemala, we traveled all over the world. And our plan A, skipping ahead, now you know what plan B was. Plan A, Dave, what was plan A?
So plan A, Liz is super smart. Yeah, maybe turn that one off. I got my degree. Liz got into a doctoral program at UCSD. Mail. Oh. I don't know. I think it's better now. Okay. UCSD. So we moved down to La Jolla in California. I got a job right down there on Pearl Street in La Jolla. It was a design job. I'd go to the beach at lunch. It was so much fun. Liz was getting her doctorate at UCSD. We had a great life. We go surfing on the beach. It was wonderful.
No kids.
No kids. Anyways, it was great.
It was great. So I think I have to turn on, then you have to turn off. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was gonna be a professor, Dave was gonna be a graphic designer. Maybe one day he could be like an art director. That was plan A, okay? But as life has it, and just so you know, this whole talk today is called Plan D, okay? So you know where this is going. Plan A did not work out. Why did plan A not work out? Well, because everything that could have possibly have gone wrong went wrong. We were so excited to get pregnant, and we got pregnant with twins, which was so amazing and wonderful. Kind of scary when you don't have any money and you're just in school. But my dad was a twin, and my whole life I thought I was going to have twins. So we were so excited. The bad news was my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer about 3 months into my pregnancy. And so, you know, here we were, I was like, I don't know anything about kids, and I'm probably gonna lose my mom. It was just really one of the worst possible times of our lives. And I was trying to finish up my PhD, and I actually was put on bed rest, and my mom had an experimental drug that they were at Scripps College, which happened to be like a block away from where our student housing was. It was like such a miracle. It was the only place in the whole entire country that had this drug. So my mom moved in with us, and she got her treatment, and I was on bed rest, and we would just sit and cry like all day together. It was just the saddest, hardest, scariest time. And growing up, my parents actually, we moved to Guatemala when I was 8, because my mom is actually from Guatemala. My dad's from Salt Lake. And my parents started a clothing manufacturing business. So all of my growing up, my parents had these factories, and they sewed clothes for like Nike and Reebok and all of these different companies. But I did not want to have anything to do with the apparel business, because I knew that it was so hard. And I didn't want to work with my spouse because I knew it was so hard. And Dave and I were so excited to be on this, you know, this journey together, which was very different than what I thought with what I saw my parents do. But when everything fell apart and my mom was sick, my dad was in Guatemala trying to run these factories. He needed help, and we didn't know how long we'd have my mom for, and we knew that I'd need help to be able to finish my PhD, like who would help watch the kids. And so my dad offered Dave a job, okay? So Dave, what was the proposition?
Well, around this time in like 2006, China had quotas on their apparel, and so they could only import so much apparel. So right around this time, they took the quotas off, and it started to get harder and harder for Central America to compete, because it was like $1 or $2 cheaper to quote something in Asia. So that's like, if you're off by like 3 cents or 5 cents, they're not going to take your quote. And now we're $1 off. So shortly after, Liz's parents, they're like, hey, come down, come help us. It's getting a little bit harder down here. We really think you can help us out.
And this is what our life looked like. We had these 2 little babies. Okay?
Yes, and so we had a great life, but at the same time, that was a good opportunity for us, so we decided to move down to Guatemala. And so that was something totally different for me. I didn't know Spanish, and so I was going in with his dad to work and try to get to work in the factory.
So we knew from seeing my parents' business, you know, businesses are like this. And if you think they're any other way, then this is probably not the career choice for you. Businesses are definitely. And so I'd seen the ups and downs with business, and we thought, you know what, this is a hard time for my parents, but things will go well. We're going to have a great life. And really within like 6 months of us going there, everything fell apart. My parents had about 1,500 employees in 2 different countries. They had a factory in Nicaragua. They had factories in Guatemala. And these companies that they had worked for 25 years just up and left. And not only did they up and leave, they actually brought people to our factories in Guatemala with video cameras filming how well we sewed stuff so that they could show their factories in China how to do it just the way we did it. And it was heartbreaking, and it was devastating, and it was terrifying. For us, it meant having to completely come up with a new business plan and seeing my parents lose their whole legacy. My parents lost all of their retirement, and with each factory closing, it was letting people go that had worked for us for 10, 15, 20 years. It was selling machines to try to help cover people's severance. It was seeing hundreds of thousands of people in Guatemala lose their jobs. It was seeing hundreds of thousands of people being deported from the US coming back to Guatemala. It was an insane time. Crime was rampant. We were driving to work one day and a bus driver was killed, killed, two cars away from us. And every day was really, really scary. And every day we knew that we were just digging ourselves deeper and deeper into this hole. And I remember having to eventually put my studies aside and help with the factory. Dave and I were substitute teachers on the side to try to get enough money. Dave's mom flew down, bought us groceries because we didn't have enough food. My parents lost everything. We were in debt with tens of thousands of dollars. We were writing checks to help cover payroll for my parents. It was not what we thought it was going to be. And things just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where it was almost like comedic, like what could possibly go wrong today? I thought everything had gone wrong already. So, yeah.
So the first thing we did was the first idea we had. We're like, okay, how can we make this better? It's so hard to compete. And so we did find some people in the States. And the thing now, and the thing that you guys will probably deal with is like a full package. And before they were just cutting and sewing. And so now we thought we could buy the fabric, and so we started buying the fabric, and then the companies were like, hey, it's not enough to just buy the fabric. You need to design the garments, and then we'll pick the designs. So it was really hard on us because then we had to get pattern makers, but it kind of pushed us to where by the end of it we had pattern makers. We could design, and by the end of it we could do pretty much every part of the process in the factory.
So at this point, we started sewing for a company called BB Sport. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was like BEBE, lots of bedazzling, lots of diamonds everywhere. And our factories, remember, we had like 1,500 employees. Well, Dave saw that the writing was on the wall, and he actually ended up convincing my dad to open like another factory and just pulling like the best sewers, the head of quality, the head of production, the head of accounting. And so we ended up with a team of like 17, maybe 20 people, and we moved into this other factory just in case if we lost everything, and we actually ended up losing them. And so my parents had such a great reputation in Guatemala up until this point that we never had to solicit work. Never did my parents ever have to reach out to people. People always had come to us. And so BB Sport had found us, and they wanted to work with us, but they definitely thought they were working with the bigger company than the small company that we were at that point. But we had all of the most important, crucial, trained people, really some of the best in the world, that were still on the team. And so we started doing this full package program for them. But I'm going to tell you, things kept getting worse. So we had probably, $40,000 on our credit cards at this point. Maybe more. We had started factoring orders, and so we would get an order, and we would need to get paid partial of that invoice once we shipped it to help fund the purchasing for the next. So we were in this vicious cycle of just getting paid, but immediately or even before that shipping, actually already purchasing the stuff. So there was just not, cash flow was very, very difficult. We got a phone call one morning at 6:30 in the morning. Dave and I were teaching an early morning LDS seminary class, actually. We had like our 2 one-year-olds in their pajamas, and we're teaching this class, and we got a phone call that our factory had been broken into, and we had this giant order that we needed to ship the next day to BB to get paid, and everything had been stolen. Every machine was gone. There's this Jack Johnson song. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's called Breakdown. And he talks about how there's like this train and it's moving so fast. And I remember at this time in my life going for runs and just pushing this stroller with these babies in it, thinking, I just want this train to break down. And I really felt like when we showed up to the factory and we saw that everything was gone, that the train had broken down and that Dave and I could finally come back to the States. But what had been preventing us was knowing that it just didn't feel fair that Dave and I could leave and start over. And we had this team of people who had nothing if we left. And we were all in this together. And these are two of the people. I had known Irma on the left since I was 8 years old. I had known Glenda since I was 10 years old. And we just didn't know how we could leave them. So we show up to the factory, and I'm ready. I'm the white flag, like, this is it. I'm ready to go home. But Dave and my dad were not ready to quit.
Well, really, I didn't know what to do. But Liz's dad it just goes, he was like, hey, we got this. I'm going to make a few phone calls. Let's rent some machines from people. I don't know what, but let's do this. And so Brent made a few phone calls, and within like a couple hours, like a bunch of trucks showed up, bunch of people that he'd worked with for years, that he'd had great relationships with, and that's something that's super important, that they just showed up for him. And luckily the people who, it was like an inside job. I don't know what it was. Like, it was like some person went up to the door and like seduced the guard somehow. It was like a movie, and then they got in, but like they took the machines, but they knew exactly which machines that were most expensive. So they didn't look at the product that was sitting there that we needed to ship the next day. So we're like, all right. So basically Brent's like, oh yeah, well, let's do this. Let's ship it. So somehow we got it out on time, and we shipped it, and we kept going. And that was just one of the many times that it took a lot of resilience, and it took a lot of people to keep us going.
So that, within that week, not to be super dramatic, I could say it was that night. I don't know, it might have been that night. But we just knew that plan C was not what was going to make us survive. We had to come up with a plan D. And I think some of the values that Dave and I shared were the same values that the team in Guatemala shared. And we felt like that was really going to help us get to where we needed to be. And so these are just some of the points that we felt were important. So we needed to clearly define what the roles and expectations were for our team. Who's there, what can they do, how can we work together? We knew that we need to all be authentically invested, and that meant like we needed to all show up for each other, right? We had a common purpose. We needed to create a culture that was not about me, it was about the we. And we needed to find people who were willing to do that last 10%. And that last part, you guys, that's the most important part. A lot of people can do that first 90% of a job. Surround yourself with people who want to do that last 10%. These are some of the people that were on our team then, and we still work with those guys. This is Margarito. We just kind of wanted to show you some of the faces of the people who are in the brand. Margarito has worked with my family for about 34 years. He probably has a third grade education. And when things were really, really bad, he came to me and Dave, and he looked at us in the face, and he said, don't give up on me. Don't give up on us. And years later, Margarito called me up, and we talk to each other all the time, actually. He still works for us. And he said, Liz, do you remember that day I came into your office and I said not to give up on us? And I was like, yeah, of course, Margarito. And he said, I want you to know my second daughter just graduated from college this week. And that wouldn't be possible if you had given up on us. He is one of the best men you'll ever meet in your life. So, plan D. We couldn't count on other people. We had to count on ourselves. And that's where Albion came in.
So, if you guys, so there was a company here in Utah, Shabby Apple, and there was a time where it was super influential, and it was doing some amazing things, and like even before influencers, they were working with like mommy bloggers, and there were some of Liz's friends growing up, and they wanted to sew dresses with Liz. And so they were working with them, and we decided that we were going to try to see if they wanted some swimsuits, because our factory was like amazing at swimsuits, and maybe this is something that we could do with ourselves. And they were really cool, and they're like, yeah, you can do it on consignment. And Liz was like, okay, well, let's come up with a brand and let's do this. And so we came up with a brand, and that's where Albion's really started.
So we sold on consignment with them on their website for about a year and a half. And as partnerships, how it happens, sometimes they start out very even, and then things change, and we started needing these things, and they started needing these things. And so the dynamic was changing a little bit. But we knew that this was a really great opportunity, and we were super, super grateful for it, because it showed us that the world wanted one-piece swimsuits. There weren't one-piece swimsuits that were cute, that women felt comfortable and cute in 2010. And so that was what we went to market on. And someone right before this at dinner said, how did you set yourselves apart in a market that was so saturated? It wasn't saturated then. Like, if you wanted a one-piece swimsuit, you were buying like a Speedo swimsuit for doing laps in a pool. And there was a market for that. We knew there was a market for that in Utah, but we felt like there was a national market for that too. So we definitely started growing first in Utah, and then it just grew and grew and grew. And then when we moved back to Salt Lake, a huge mall called City Creek was opening up downtown in Salt Lake City. And one of our best friends happened to be doing the hair for the general manager of City Creek, and they were looking for a local swimwear fitness company to fill in a space that they had. And unbeknownst to us, this was a space that was actually already committed to another store, but that store needed like another 7 months before they were ready to do their build out with their permits. And so we got in there on a temporary lease. And I would love to share with you the art of negotiation, but this is how it worked for us. I don't think this is normal. They came and they were like, we want $20,000 for this space. And Dave and I were like, okay, and we didn't even reply back to the email because it was like so crazy. And then they emailed back and they were like, this is where you negotiate. We're like, oh, okay. So we threw out an offer which was like crazy for us. We're like $2,000 a month, which was like crazy town. There was no way we would be able to afford that. And they took it, and we were like, oh crap, like now we have to do this. And I worked at Crate & Barrel for 6 months once. That was our retail experience. We had zero retail experience, but we had good design. And Dave was the one that was designing all of the art for the swimsuits. And I was the one kind of doing the product descriptions and just kind of doing the marketing end of it. We started our Instagram page in 2011. And, that was the beginning. We opened up our store, and this is me carrying in the bags, the boxes. This is Dave blowing up balloons with our little 6-year-old twins, and the video is actually really cute. You hear their little raspy voices.
Like a budget of like maybe $6,000. IKEA.
Yes, lots of IKEA.
It was.
We lost a twin this day, by the way. She was found by like the police during the grand opening. So we weren't very good at balancing parenting with running a business. Okay, Dave, products.
Something that we really did. So we didn't have very much money, and obviously it was hard to walk. I just sit outside and listen to people walk by, and they'd be like, "Oh man, like what's this is City Creek?" And anyways, but it was cool. It was as cool for what you could do, but the budget was so low. But the one thing that was amazing is when people tried on our suits, they bought them. And even though how we didn't know what we were doing, but the product was excellent. And the factory, they're excellent. And so it was a learning, it was something that we learned then. If you make something excellent, there's a lot of things you can do wrong with marketing, and there's a lot of things you can do wrong with everything else, but the product will sell itself. And if you focus on that, it's like the number one most important thing. So number one, make something you would use, okay? It sounds pretty easy, right? But like I think once you start doing it, there's a lot of people that start telling you a bunch of things and everything. But the one thing that we do is if Liz will wear it, then we'll make it. And if you what I tell everybody, like the designers, is like, okay, we're gonna do a t-shirt. but you have to wear it for like 3 days. And if you're cool with wearing it for 3 or whatever, then we're going to make it. But it has to be something that we love and that at least resonates with us. Use materials you can source and scale. This is one that is a logistical thing that a lot of people don't think about, and you make something really cool, but then you make it cool and you sell out of it, and then you're like, oh, I got to wait 6 months, till that next one, till I can get it back. Do something that you can find this stuff quickly, and if it sells out quickly, you can get quickly. Make something that is in your wheelhouse. And this is something very important. This is obviously one-piece swimsuits. That was our wheelhouse. That was something that we knew we could make. And maybe you've grown up and your dad's or your mom's a mechanic or something. Like, you probably know a lot more about that, or just think about what you really know about or what you're really passionate about, because you're always going to do better with something along those lines.
So quickly, we needed a team, right? Like Dave and I couldn't do this alone. And so we started hiring people who didn't have any experience. And I think what's one of the coolest things about Albion, and it's still true today, is this company has essentially been built upon, the creative genius and passion and talent of 19 to 24-year-old girls. They've come and gone, and a lot of them have grown with our company. I am so proud to have all of our store managers be women who started out with us when they were 19, 20 years old, who didn't think they were going to be working in retail, but now they're leaders, and then they became area leaders, and they were the ones who bought the first homes for their families, and I love that. But it really started with finding people who loved the same things that we did. They loved to be active. They loved not necessarily fashion, because it wasn't about fashion at that point, and really it's not so much about fashion today. It's about building a community of like-minded individuals who believe in being positive and who believe in being supportive and who believe in doing great things together. And I feel like that was our secret sauce, was finding the right team from the very beginning. And even way before we could afford it, we started a tradition that we were sending our team to Hawaii every single year. And so this is some of our team members. This is probably like 6 years ago. But first year we would bring out just the person who worked on our team, and then after 3 years we could bring out the plus ones. And last year we even brought some kids, and it's just been such a cool thing to see that grow. But it was really important for us to invest in our team and to make sure that they knew that we knew that it would only work because of them and with them by our side. This is so we include our influencers and our partners as part of our team. So this is actually a really cool picture, because you probably recognize, do you guys recognize anybody in these pictures? Does anybody recognize? So the people on the far right are our good friends Erica and JJ, and Erica had just started a blog called Clean Simple, I don't even know what it was called then, Clean and Simple Eating. But anyway, they do Clean Simple Eats today, which is like this huge, amazing nutritional company, right, out of Utah. You've got Salome Brimhall there, who everyone knows as Sal. She's got like 2 million followers on TikTok. She's got the cute little twins that do do you guys know who that is? Sal? That's Jessica Janae, our amazing photographer. You've got Brad and Haley Devine on the far right, who are these amazing videographers who have blown up today and done all these amazing things. She's like sponsored by Canon, and they still did all these amazing videos for us. You have Madeline Becker, who started out as like an intern for us, and we trained her in marketing, and then she bought into Ivy City Co., which is a dress company today. So it's been really cool to see how this group of people have just done some really amazing, impressive things over the years. These are our good friends, the Bucket List family, too, that we've gone on a bunch of trips. So one of the things that I'm really proud of that I think Albion really started were these influencer trips, before they were even known as influencer trips. Because for us, it was just about bringing our friends along with us. But we would create content, and we would tag each other, and we would go on these exotic trips where everybody was wearing Albion head to toe. So this was a trip to New Zealand that we took, which, by the way, we almost killed everybody on this trip, because we went to Milford Sound. Has anyone been there in New Zealand? It's like this, it's the most beautiful place. But we drove out there, and we were going to take an airplane back but it was too cloudy. The airplane was canceled. And so we, dimwits, were like, well, let's take helicopters. And so we actually rented 2 helicopters. You guys, you could not even see your hand in front of the face. It was the craziest thing. And these helicopters were like flying in these canyons. That was wild. That was one of the craziest things. But anyway, influencers, that was a big thing as part of our marketing. Dave, do you have any other things?
Well, and so anyways, we lived happily ever after, but actually it was like 10 more years of just figuring things out. It's always come back to that team, and it's always come back to the people that we've surrounded ourselves with. And we've been very fortunate, and just through your journey, hopefully you can create a place that brings great people to you, and it starts with you creating a foundation of a great workplace, and that's hard to do. But if you can do it, I think it really pays off in the end.
So yeah, we're open to any questions, but that's it. Just really quick, we've got 6 different retail locations. We're in Scottsdale, we're in La Jolla, we're in Austin, we're in Dallas. We have 2 places in Salt Lake. We've got more coming. So retail is a big part of our business, and online. So being able to do the omni-channel was very important in our growth. Dave started the website. He was able to build it himself, which is really great that we have a graphic designer that could do all of that. And anyway, it's been a pretty crazy journey, but we're excited to be here. Thanks, and thanks for your time. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Yeah, go ahead. That's a great question. So I think my dad had a midlife crisis, is I think what happened, because he was 45 when we moved to Guatemala, and he was actually doing real estate in California. So I think his intention was actually to move there and retire, but he got bored. So he bought my mom a little factory, and it was to keep her busy. And then he just got more and more involved. But he always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think my dad was always just a big ideas guy, and I think for him, building connections was really important. And he saw an opportunity in Guatemala that had, pretty cheap labor compared to the US. And at that point, what you see in markets is labor is expensive in America. So then it moved to Central America, and then it moved to South America, and then it moved to the Caribbean, and then it moved to Africa and Asia. And so you've kind of seen how that's changed over the years. For us, it was devastating to see my parents lose everything. It was so sad. And all of my brothers had actually tried at some point to kind of keep the factory business going, and Dave and I were the last man and woman standing. And so it's really cool. He still helps, he still consults for us, and at the end of the day, he knows so much more than us at the manufacturing business than we do. So he's still an important part of what we do, but we're really proud to be able to kind of carry on his legacy. Yeah.
What's the current problem that you guys are facing, and how are you trying to overcome it?
I love that. I'm going to pass that to Dave.
Well, I would just say every year changes, and you can't be doing what you've done the year before. But also there's always a new opportunity. And I just the evolution of our brand, we grew, Instagram just came out right when we're coming up, and it was so, you could get followers, and the algorithm hadn't really throttled anybody, and so you could it was very organic. And so most of our growth, the early years, was just organic growth, and we didn't do anything else really. We did influencer marketing a lot, and that was in its infancy, and now it's pretty built out, and so every year it's kind of changed, and even now, I imagine you get a lot of Facebook ads or whatever, and they're telling you, you guys got to know Meta and you guys got to know how to get into that. And every year it gets a little more sophisticated. But so I would just say the challenge is to find new channels and to find new ways to get yourself out there. That's hasn't really been too expensive, and it's always changing, but just every year is going to be different. But I would say that's always the challenge.
I would say a really specific thing is, I think one of our strengths is the factory, like our speed to market is what has distinguished us from our competition. So, when we first started, we were able to launch something like on Thursday and see how it did on Friday, Saturday. We would issue a PO on Monday, sew it on Monday or Tuesday, and then have it to the customer by Thursday. Like, it was quick. And I feel like that's still, it's on a bigger scale now, but we produce stuff really quickly. Like, we have probably a 3-week design to production window to delivery. We're a vertical operation, so we buy our fabric, we design everything ourselves, we sew it ourselves, we ship it, distribute it ourselves. It's very, vertical. But we just landed a really huge licensing collaboration that we're gonna be launching this summer that I can't announce who it's with. It's huge, and it's like, all of a sudden, it's an 120-day window that we've got to be working in, and that's not really how we work. So that's going to be really, really hard, but exciting. Yeah. Yes, and we always will. Those are our people. Yep.
How did seeing the challenges your parents went through influence the way you run your business now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I just want to say overall, the opportunities that we have and the opportunities that you have, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. And when they were doing their business, there was no way you could just start your own brand. There was just you had these big companies that were the only way, they were the only channels that you could really reach out to customers. But now, you have Shopify, you have the internet, you can reach a lot of people a lot of ways. So they were kind of restrained in how they could do things. And I think one of the challenges with that is you're always dependent on these bigger brands to get POs and they were contracting. And so I think the uncertainty of that really kind of cemented the way we do things. We are very conservative too, as far as how we do cash and how much money we keep in the bank, and also we saw them really try to treat everybody amazingly, and even in the worst times, seeing people see them give away things where they didn't have that much, but they still wanted to make it right with each employee. I think it's easy to win, and it's easy to be courageous when you're winning, and it's easy but in those hard times, really seeing that time, I think was I think it's really cemented how we approach things with our business.
Sorry, really wet. Yeah, I don't know that it's a contrast. I think what it did was it just taught us what we needed to look for here, And you're right, the Guatemalan people, they will give you the shirt off their back. They are the hardest working, the most amazing people, and we were really in it together. And I think that's why we couldn't leave when we really wanted to, because we knew that we were in it with them. And I think finding people who were in it with us, so at our office, we've got 3 words in a frame, and it says, "We show up." And that's how we work every day, is our team knows that Dave and I are gonna show up. We're gonna be there early in the morning, and we're going to be the last ones to leave. We want our team to know that we are willing to do anything that we ask of them to do. But I think we know what we need to be successful because of what we saw in Guatemala, because of those people. And you can find it. You just need to be pretty picky about who you decide to surround yourself with.
Yeah, I just say the qualities that were there, they look out for each other. It's very like, if somebody succeeds, they want everybody to succeed. And super hard workers. So, yeah, I think I feel like that's where we really where we've come from. So that culture is something that like we always kind of fall back on, I would say, work-wise.
Sorry. Yeah. How we recruit those people, is that what you said? Oh, yeah. You know, I think we do a lot of interviews, and I think we really hire, I think initially we hired fast because we really need, you've heard the saying, like hire slow, fire fast. I think at the beginning, it was a lot of hiring fast, just trying to get as many people as we could. We really depended a lot on friends and family, to be honest. If you want to know, like the very beginning, it was whose sister, whose brother, whose niece, it was our friends. And we still do that a lot, is when we're looking for positions, we always ask our team if there's people that they would recommend for a position when there's a job opening too. But I think your vibe attracts your tribe. So whatever you're putting out there, hopefully that's what you're attracting, and you're gonna get like-minded individuals. But we love hiring athletes. If you want to get like super specific, we love seeing on a resume if you played like collegiate sports or if you played even high school sports. That shows us that you're a team player, that you know how to work hard, and that you're disciplined. We don't necessarily, it depends on the position, but some positions we're going to want experience in. I think initially we were much more willing to train people for beginning, more entry-level positions. But now just because we've grown so much, we really need people with more experience. But I think Dave has a much better picker than I do. I'm kind of like, if they tell me what I want to hear, I'm like, let's do it. And Dave's like, let's ask some harder questions,
I just say it's really up to, if you're bringing somebody on, you're bringing that responsibility on to take care of that person. And it's hard to ask hard questions, It's hard to ask and especially especially when you're working, you want to paint, whatever they're doing is in the best case scenario, but you really have to kind of give the hardest case scenario, I think, and just be very realistic about what they're going to be doing, what everybody's going to be doing. And I think, and just be realistic about the whole experience. And hopefully you can make it a good experience, but that trust and just building that trust, and it's hard because a lot of people, and then a lot of you might get rejected. You tell somebody they have to do a certain thing and they don't want to do it. That's hard, and it's hard to be saying that, but it's really important that you start that level of trust, and especially at the beginning. And if you do, it's great because it builds like the expectations. Everything is.
The other thing I also say, our team does a lot of the hiring now, meaning if Dave and I like someone, we always hand them off to our team to do the interviews to see if they mesh well with each other. So that's kind of a good way to weed people out too. Yeah. Yeah.
I found that in your market, your company, it's very important, the brand. And as you've said that you choose some influencers to collaborate with you, how do you choose the right people to collaborate with?
That's a really good question. So more generally, we want to make sure that they fit our brand. So, we're pretty family friendly. So we'll check out their feed and see, what kinds of stuff are they posting. We stay away from controversial people in general. We look for people who, I love Dave always uses this word, people who aren't snarky. So like if people are just mean, are like not nice people, like we don't want to work with them. Like we want to work with.
There's a place for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just not with Albion.
There's even a company for, you know what I'm saying? But that's just not us. But it's okay, whatever. But you just, yeah. Right?
That's the nice. See, that's nice. He said it in a nicer way than I did. But we want nice people that we know that will understand that we're in this for the long run. Like we want this to work well for us and work well for them. But if we want to get more technical, we have platforms where we create campaigns where different influencers can go in and they can accept a campaign invitation, or they can sign up for a campaign, and then we go through a vetting process. We see how many followers they have, which now we work with macro and micro influencers. It doesn't really matter so much how many followers they have, but really it's like, are they good content creators? We want to know that they're articulate, that they can talk about the product, they can educate about the product, and that they can be excited about the product and express that in a way to get people excited about it.
I just say that last part. Liz is really good at this, and I think it's because she's authentic about it, because she really likes to meet people and she really likes to have friends. And another thing is she's picked people that really like our brand, and it's really, I think that's really important that you find people that really, whatever you have, whatever service you give or whatever product you have, it resonates with them. It just goes so far, because we've had so many people just go above and beyond, like, to promote what we're doing, and that just goes so much farther than even if it's like a bigger person but doesn't really understand it, or it doesn't really resonate with them. I think that's super important, and we've been very lucky to have some people who really looked out for us and tried to promote what we were doing.
Yeah, I see a question. Yeah. How many current employees and physical locations do you have? Yeah, so we have 6 retail locations, and we have about 100, maybe a little more employees in the U.S., and then in Guatemala we have a couple hundred. Any other questions? Yeah.
What is your design process look like? How do you find inspiration to create your designs and your products?
I don't design, but I'll just share this. Whenever we go on a trip, this guy has his phone out and he's taking pictures of cool patterns that he sees or flowers. He designs, this is going to be a debate you'll see if you were in the previous luncheon. He likes to say he doesn't design stuff, but he actually designs 99.9% of all of the prints. But he's always taking pictures. So I think we love to travel. And honestly, whenever we travel, we're taking pictures, and we love going to museums, and we love just experiencing cultures. And so I think that's the more broad, but specifically.
In the beginning, it was a lot of us, but now we have a lot of people that are really involved in designing. And so we have a group of people, and we have a group of designers who are excellent. And we have the whole office, and there's a lot of diverse thinking about what we want to do. But it really comes down to, would Liz wear it? Would the people in our office wear it? Would our designers wear it? And then it goes to the stores. It's so nice to have, we didn't have all these things, but the store people, they're with the customers every day. We get feedback from them that's excellent. And we take all that. And I think what Liz and I are good at is we're kind of good at filtering in all these channels and kind of looking to see what's out there as well. But we're really trying to create our own art and be authentic. That's something that's really important, that you need to separate yourselves from these huge brands, because you probably aren't going to be able to do it exactly as better than if you're trying to kind of copy what they're doing or doing exactly what you're doing. You kind of have to do your own thing. And so but with that group of people, we that's where we start from, is that core group of people. And it really comes down to, am I going to put that on? Is Liz going to wear those pants? Am I going to wear this sweatshirt? Am I really going to wear it? And if you're hey, I'm designed all this stuff, but I'm not even going to wear it. You need to think about it. And you think, oh, that would never happen. But then when you start doing it and we start getting all these opinions, and then you're well, everybody's telling me that I should do this, but I don't even like that, or whatever. That's when you just have to be hey, I'm going to make something that I love, and at least it'll I understand it, because you need to understand your own aesthetic.